Hey, everybody, welcome to Cars with Cocktails, a show where we join two things that go perfectly together, drinking and driving. Today, joined by my co-host, Charles, a.k.a. The Humble Mechanic.
I think we should start saying three things: drinking, driving, and me making a mess out of whatever the hell drink
Well, this
that
time
we are having, because I saved the day, sort of, but I think it was like, all right, Paul, let's get this thing started. And then I immediately dropped my whole entire glass full of ice on the floor. Luckily, the glass didn't hit the ground because I would have gotten in trouble for breaking this one. But whatever.
Yeah, so Charles did make a mess. He didn't spill a drink, but he did spill ice everywhere, and no glass was broken in the process. Today, we're going to be drinking White Russians. Mine's going to be modified heavily because I'm still coming off of a quarantine where I can't. Technically, today is the last day. I still can't go to the store. So my White Russian is going to be with Bailey's vodka and almond milk, which also is AKA nut juice, if you're not familiar with how almond milk is made. And Charles is having a proper one with
Kahlua
and heavy cream.
Kahlua. Wait a minute. Oh, yeah. So it doesn't take the whole bottle, just a little bit. So I've actually never, and I can feel the cringe, I've never actually had a White Russian, because the idea to me of mixing alcohol with milk or ice cream is disgusting. And I know people are like, Charles, but what about ice cream, float, alcohol? Yeah, that shit sounds gross to me. So I've never had this, but I'm kind of excited. I also have, I don't think this is from Russia, but it has Russian words, or at least a Russian-esque font on the bottle. It's called Russian Standard vodka. So I don't know, maybe it's legit. It says it was the original vodka distilled and bottled in Russia using winter wheat from Russian steppes and pure glacial. And there's a lot more words I'm not going to read anymore. So this is a classic, right? This is the dude drink from that movie that people love a lot.
Which movie is this?
This would be The Big Lebowski. So since I'm just going to piss everybody off with never having a White Russian, I've also never fully watched The Big Lebowski.
Neither have I.
So I assume everyone has now clicked away, and it's just going to be you and I bullshitting around.
These guys are idiots.
Yeah. I mean, after you told them to shove something some plastic thing up their ass right before or after they do a review for us last week, the attendance in this game is pretty damn low today.
I think.
But if you have never had a White Russian, the ingredients are 1 ounce. Well, I'm on Smirnoff's website. So 1 ounce of your favorite vodka, 0.75 ounces of coffee liqueur, Kahlua is what we got happening today, and 1 ounce of heavy cream. I do want to know, though, for you White Russian connoisseurs, to me, whenever I have something with heavy cream, I have a propensity to really shake it so that it kind of has some body to the heavy cream. Is that a thing that happens in a White Russian, or is it just pour and you're cool? I'm interested. Let us know.
Yeah, I don't know anything about anything you just said. I know I don't think we are people who make drinks in any way that that is the proper way. Really, we're just lucky if we get some of the right ingredients and have it not taste terrible. That's the goal generally. Get a feel for what it should taste like roughly.
The shittiest version of.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Drink. I feel like this is the wrong glass, but it looks cool. It looks kind of coffee-ish.
I mean, your glass is
supposed to get chunky.
Your glass is always the wrong glass. Just so you know.
That's my life, man. It's I got the right ingredients, just the wrong damn glass.
You're making cocktails in a mason jar, which is almost never the correct.
It's a beer glass, man. Look, it's a Lagunitas glass with a dog on it. I don't know.
Okay.
Can see that? Is it delicious?
Mine's not. Mine's a little heavier than I took a large. I probably didn't stir it quite good enough. I got like straight vodka is what it was to me right away. So we get a little mix up. Hopefully that can help.
So while you mix up your mix up, I'm gonna let this mellow. I feel like generally I like to let a drink mellow for a minute.
I think it's wise.
I have no justification for that. But I also have a white Russian question. Some may call that in English a white Russian question. But before we talk about that, let's actually talk about something car related. Today we're talking about car ads, awesome car ads, and how I think today overall, like, car ads kind of suck.
I think our both of our opinions is car ads generally suck now. I don't think there aren't any good ones anymore, but not as many good ones as there once was. So obviously from our perspective, the VW and Audi world, you go back to nostalgia, like the fast stuff and the unpimp the auto stuff.
Those might be my favorite So I have a couple of favorite VW commercials. But the Unpimp the Auto series, that series of 3, was brilliant, especially for the time. So this would have been what, like 2004, 2005, 2006, right when the Mark V came out. I think
506, yeah.
Those 3 videos, what I would love to see. You know what VW should do for this new GTI? They should get those people back and they should redo those commercials with a little bit of like throwback to back then. Everybody's older. They've aged a little bit more. We're saying the GTI is more refined than it's ever been. Just did a video on the Mark 8 with a little deeper dive than you and I had talked about whenever that was, last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was.
Hopefully it was actually good too.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that would be a fun way to approach
100%.
the kickoff of the GTI, which means it'll definitely not happen.
There's no chance it's going to happen. They're definitely not going to do it. Absolutely.
We'll be lucky if we see one fucking commercial about a damn car.
And you know what's interesting? That in and of itself, I wonder is why advertising has changed so much. Is the fragmentation of consumer bases and the online version obviously eating up everything. And frankly, but you should be able to reach actually more of your target audience in online media than you could if you were just putting it on some show, let's say.
Yeah. You also, what boggles my mind is we're complaining about how car commercials kind of suck when we are existing in a time where every bit of advertisement has the freedom to be better than it's ever been, more creative, more engaging, more fun, more serious, right? Whatever avenue you're trying to take for your car, right now we have the most amount of freedom to do all those really rad things. And I'm sure there's campaigns that knock it out of the park, right? I'm 100% sure. I was actually thinking the other day what the 2021 Super Bowl is going to look like, because clearly by the time that that gets here, it's either going to be our new president's in the office, so COVID will have vanished completely. That's just a political joke. I don't actually think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
However, it was fishy that vaccine's all of a sudden available, but we'll take our tinfoil hat and set it over to the side.
You better be careful.
I'm not going down that road. I am prepared to go down many paths on this podcast. That one is not one I'm willing to go down. But I think if we did really have an honest conversation, the Super Bowl is going to look different the next time it comes up than it had in previous years. And I'm very excited to see how brands leverage that, because we know that now it's going to be different. And what kind of really amazing content can come about from that. And, I've been thinking about all this stuff and like how Black Friday is going to look in the shopping season for the holidays, and how already it's different. And I think it's sad that, man, like, car companies, y'all are blowing it. Like,
Well,
you can do better.
on that front, one, I'm ready for everything to stop being fucking politicized because I don't need fucking
Facts.
politics in every single encroaching on every part of life ever. So the Super Bowl and otherwise, including car commercials, I would love for politics to be out of them because you don't need to, you're a brand, you don't need to be stand for something other than the product you're selling and making a good product.
Yeah, but you're not woke then if you don't
It's true.
stand for those things. But so real quick, this is actually not that bad. Definitely not something I would want to drink more than like one of. And man, can you imagine drinking? I know you said, Paul, yours is pretty terrible. I also like coffee a lot, like a lot. It's probably my favorite thing to drink. So that probably actually could use a little more Kahlua, which I didn't realize is actually a coffee liqueur with rum, because I am not someone that pays attention to things.
Yeah, first of all, mine's a little different. It has gotten better. It wasn't mixed very well, so I must have just taken like a straight sip of vodka off the top of it. So it hit me a little bit harder. But Bailey's, I mean, Bailey's is hard to dislike. I don't really. If you were an alcoholic, I don't even drink coffee. But if I had Bailey's and coffee, I'm sure I would enjoy it much more. And yeah, so.
Don't they call that Irishing up your coffee?
Well,
is that
Irish,
like is that something you can't say anymore? I don't know. Like,
no,
where
it
the line
yeah,
is.
no, it is. I think Irishing coffee is usually Irish whiskey, though.
I thought it was just putting alcohol in your coffee.
I mean, if you're gonna be an Irish coffee drinker, you better be a real fucking alcoholic. You don't want to come with this fucking whatever 18 proof fucking horse shit.
Basic bitch, this basic bitch alcohol. That's what I think of. Like, I think of like very chocolatey, girly drinks when I think of Kahlua. And like, hey, if that's your flavor, that's fine. I'm not hating on that. Like, we all like the stuff that we like. So yeah, it's actually not bad. Like I said, I picture like what the hangover and how my stomach would feel the next day if I drank a buttload of those.
Oh yeah.
But, we won't be doing that this
also
evening.
Coming out the other end. Coming back up.
Yeah, it's bad time. So back to car commercials. Like Paul mentioned, we both exist, and I think a lot of you guys already know that we both exist in the VW Audi world. So that to me is where like my compass points primarily. Loved the Pimp the Auto ones. My favorite Volkswagen commercial. This is from the Mark IV era. And it's my favorite commercial. It's not like overwhelmingly a great commercial or anything like that. It's not like well filmed, even though like other ones in that series really were, like the Synchronicity commercial with, I think it was a Mark IV Jetta or Golf, and they're driving through Bourbon Street, and they're like the wipers are going to the beat of everything that's happening around. Really, that's a brilliant commercial.
That's one of my favorites. Yeah.
This one is not, but it's so damn relatable in my life. And so it starts out with the dude reading his owner's manual, and like he's reading it and he looks up and he's like, oh, and like he has this just look of pure excitement, and he runs out to his car. He's got his key in his hand. He puts his key in the door. He turns the lock cylinder, and the windows roll down. And he's excited. So he runs back in the house. His wife's like getting ready, towel in her hair, wearing a robe. He drags her outside. He does the same thing and shows her. And she looks at him dead ass, rolls her eyes, and goes back inside. And I just like, I know that is how anytime I'm excited about something like that my wife looks at me like, this fuck, why did I marry this guy? What the hell is this dude's problem? Like, yeah, your windows rolled down with your key. Big fucking deal, bro. I'm going to go back to like existing in reality. So that, like, again, it's not, like groundbreaking, but
it is relatable. And yeah, the Synchronicity one comes to mind for me. For the Mark IV, it was like a rainy city street, and the wipers moved to the beat with the people on the street walking and blah blah blah, whatever. Cool commercial, nothing earth shattering either though. The ones that I also, and I don't know if you remember them, the Safe Happens commercials.
I don't know if I remember the Safe Max commercials.
So they
I'm gonna
were
Google that
basically,
real quick.
I'll give you a brief synopsis while you look it up. They were all about around the Mark V era days. B6 Passats also were in these.
I do now that I see that, I do remember these.
Yeah, people were driving down the road and then they get into a car accident and they're telling a story, they're just talking blah blah, and it always catches you off guard, like them getting hit, but it's always like them about to say a bad word, like oh shit, but they cut it off and then it just says like safe happens.
I remember the first time I saw one of those, it was like so jarring. Like that shit was realistic as hell.
Yeah. They were certainly they would really like catch you off guard, which is why I thought it was such a good advertising piece, because it would get your attention as opposed to a lot of other things that don't. And then the obvious one that is probably the most famous Volkswagen commercial ever is the Darth Vader B7 Passat one.
Yeah, that I had forgotten about that till you were talking about this Get Safe or Safe Happens one. And you know, one of like I have such a bad memory until we're kind of talking about things, and then like it really starts to jog my memory. And I loved that Darth Vader commercial. And I wish that, you know, it's like you do these little campaigns and they're so good, and then it's like, okay, we did this campaign, let's move on to the next one, instead of like, how do we take what we've done in this campaign and not do the same thing, right? Because that would like, yeah, cool, Darth Vader kid, like use the Force, right? Which is really funny that it was the Passat that did it, and then like VW got in trouble with all those emissions controls for the TDI and that vintage of Volkswagen. I'm sure there was no foreshadowing to be seen there, but anyway, that was pretty funny to me. Yeah, I love that one. There's also on the Audi side, there was like I think it was for the first hybrid where they had like some kind of time cop thing. I'm not remembering this commercial very well. It was a Super Bowl commercial from a number of years ago, and Audi just knocked it out of the park. And then we had the one from like the last Super Bowl or 2 Super Bowls ago where that chick from Game of Thrones is just like driving around, and you're like, cool, that's good. Like, I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. To me, it's an interesting dynamic, right? Is the advertising is such a weird thing because when you think about it, the idea of just putting somebody who's, let's say, mega famous into a car as if that's going to make it interesting or whatever is kind of fucking stupid. But that just made me think of the commercial that you will remember, and it got kind of memed or whatever, but the Matthew McConaughey was it Buick or Oldsmobile?
It was Lincoln. It was Lincoln.
It was Lincoln.
Yeah, I think it was Lincoln. I'm thinking Lincoln.
That's one of the most memorable commercials ever.
Yeah. It did he ever use his catchphrase like in that commercial? Is that even his real catchphrase? Like,
all right.
Yeah, that was just like his character from one movie, right?
Yes, it was from Dazed and Confused. It was one of the I think that was the first movie that really brought him to prominence. But yeah, I don't think so. But he's the type of dude. I think he really leaned into that whole thing. I don't think he's not somebody who can't laugh at himself, and that whole Lincoln thing, I think he leaned into for sure, and embraced the whole culture around it. So, but another commercial, obviously the Clyde. No, that wasn't really car related. That was all beer related. All the Clydesdale horses. That was all Budweiser,
I think.
Yeah. They
had some good commercials though, I guess. I don't know. Like I'm sure I'm sure all of these commercials are out in the YouTube sphere. And as someone mentioned in a comment on our last video, we need more coffee and to be better prepared. And you know what? You're right. We do. Yet here we are. No coffee. Well, I have coffee liqueur and super unprepared. And you know what? IDGAF.
Yeah, that's what an acronym now. That's what this is. This is open-ended. This is non-structured. This isn't scripted. We're just hanging out, talking about shit. So, no, I think the car world, is interesting dynamic is when you think about advertising, like, okay, these are really what we would say. I don't even know if I would say influential. You call them memorable car commercials, right? But
Yeah.
the dynamic of how do people make car buying decisions now is probably part of what's leading the charge of the lack of good commercials.
So what you're saying is the influence isn't, hey, I saw this cool looking car in a cool commercial with someone that either is famous or like looks super hot, hot dude, hot chick driving this car. It's, I want a vehicle of this price point, this caliber is what I meant to say if I didn't say caliber the first time. This safety rating, this price point, this fuel economy. So it seems like then, are people making smarter car buying decisions today than they were 20 years ago?
I mean, I don't think so. I think actually, it's funny. So something kind of really popped to me fairly recently is, have you seen the newer Volvo products like SUVs, XC90s?
Maybe. I feel like for the most part, everything kind of looks the same today. So
yeah, they don't. If you look it up while I'm talking, you can look up the Volvo XC90, whatever 2020 or 2019. They're gorgeous. Volvo now somehow went from making like old people cars that nobody cared about to now they make probably the hottest SUV on the market. They're expensive as shit. I think they're probably 90 grand, 80 grand, something like that. They're very expensive. And I know in the Northeast, where I have some people who are more on the sales side of things, they couldn't even keep them in stock. They were selling so many of them.
They're actually not even close to that.
Oh, no?
It looks like
really expensive.
The most expensive one that I'm seeing now, granted, take this for what it's worth, is 64,000.
Okay. So it's expensive, but it's not insane.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not like, oozing to go buy one or anything, but damn.
Yeah, but they're very good looking
hybrid
vehicles.
That is a good looking vehicle.
And so I think a lot of times, and I don't know if you've seen a lot of those new Kia SUVs recently. I've been seeing more of them, and I think I think people are making more educated buying decisions now, and that's why people like Doug DeMuro has the following he has, is because he talks about all the shit that I could never see myself making the type of content he makes because I'm just not interested in that type of stuff. I don't look at things like that. I don't think like that. But I think most likely videos like his are informing people's buying decisions at a more significant rate. So they're not investing in commercials. That's why press cars exist and whatever else.
Yeah. So how do brands then leverage things like that? I'm just thinking of like 800,000 fucking buzzwords that I've read in 87 emails over the last 4 seconds. I like the little Swedish flag. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, look at that. That's really cool. I love little details like that. So how do brands leverage that kind of thing without, like, you want to have a spokesperson sort of, but you also want someone to have an unbiased outlook on the vehicle. And I don't know that those two worlds can truly exist. I mean, I feel like whenever I talk about something, whether I've paid for it or got it for free, I'm equally as critical. But it doesn't matter how I feel about it. It's the perception, because I know there's, outside of the car space, I've ran into people that fancy themselves brand ambassadors that never say anything negative. And let's be honest, I mean, you and I, we live in the VW Audi world, as we've said a million times. We say a lot of really great stuff. We also talk a lot of mad shit because it's true. But then you have to wonder, like, is a brand enthusiast or an advocate just another commercial because they never say anything critical about the product that they're talking about, like
Well,
the
I
tool
think
they're talking about or whatever?
I mean, I think we live in a world now where you get credibility based on authenticity, right? It's a fucking buzzword, but it's reality. Is if you are willing to say those things. Now, obviously, for you and I, we don't get a lot of we don't get in any everyone's good graces because we're willing to say things about problems or major issues or flaws that are a major problem that we want to, God damn it. I mean, how many years have we talked about timing chain problems? I mean,
It started in what, 08 and a half. So you
yeah.
figure no
I
less than
mean,
10
I mean,
water pumps and
it's
on and
probably not
on.
10 years. It's probably like, um, I don't know, probably 6 that we've been like hammering it, saying like timing chain tensioner problems, timing chain tensioner problems. Like, I don't know. I'd have to go back to look at my first video. I have probably fucking 15 of them around timing chain tensioner stuff, timing chain or chain tensioner stuff. So, but authenticity, I think, is going to do that. The problem is that I think, unfortunately, the reality is, I think as a business, and this is something that um, I think everybody is used to doing this, but if you can embrace it and avoid the trap that it is the thing that I always, you always hear, and it's funny, it ties back to our last episode with service advisors, is the thing that you always used to hear in the service drive with service advisors is tens and yeses, or it's a fail, or blah, 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 or some version of that, right? Right. So we're
Fuck those
okay.
survey. We should do an episode just talking about that survey
Surveys. Okay.
shit.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. I'm not even, because I'll go off. Ain't got time for that.
So the just so people, some context of what we're talking about, service advisors have to get surveyed by customers. They oftentimes tell them that if they don't get a 10 or a yes, it means that they failed and whatever. The reason why they do that is because they have benchmarks they need to reach to have certain customer service things. So the problem with all of those incentives is, and this is the challenge that's faced with any brand who implement a program like that, because the reality is putting anything in place that ties money to hitting a number means you're incentivizing that number to be hit at all costs, right?
Right. Yep.
And so the reality is that the number then no longer means anything, because now you're incentivizing people to try to reach that number. So they're going to do whatever they need to do. Now, do I think that's the right thing to do, is to try to trick people into giving you the answer that gets you the score that gets you paid? No. But the reality is that that's going to happen in some places and in some subset of people. And much like the shit that had happened to Lance Armstrong, like the dude was competing against a bunch of people on steroids. And so he's like, well, fuck it. If everybody else is on steroids, I have to do steroids too, so that I can compete. Otherwise, I can't compete anymore. And then you create a scenario to where everybody's fucking doing steroids, right? That is the wrong way to look at it, because unfortunately, what you would want to do in reality is get the feedback, determine whether you're good or bad. Don't hide from don't hide your flaws and your warts. Wear them as what they are, and get the feedback and adjust accordingly. And the reality is that the framing that we have around surveys, especially in a dealer world, is 100% the flipped upside down from what it should be. Because instead of looking for mining the surveys for how they can extract something useful to gain an insight for their consumer, all they're looking for is get a good score. Fuck that. If I got a bad score, god damn it, I didn't want to get a bad score. Like, then that's it.
Yeah. What's funny is they're doing the same amount of work, just focused on a different version of the end result, I guess. And I hate those surveys so much. I feel like it's just a way to hang someone's paycheck over their head. Imagine that this just sums it up, and I'm not going to beat up on the surveys anymore because I don't need my blood pressure that high. imagine that you get paid 100% of your paycheck, and that's like your potential. But they say, okay, we're only going to pay you 70% of your paycheck unless you get all these really great scores on your survey. Now, this survey consists of things that you have direct control over. Were you nice to the customer? When the customer walked in, did you tell them to go fuck themselves? No. Okay, cool. You get a star. Good for you. It also has elements in it that you have absolutely zero control over. Like, was the fucking part in stock? Was the customer able to find a parking spot in your building? I'm sorry, service advisors really don't have a whole hell of a lot of control over where the hell the building is and how easy it is to find. So if you're going to hang over someone's head their paycheck because the building is or is not hard to find, you're an asshole. And I'm sure someone's like, well, that's not actually how it works because they don't use that question as part of the overall scoring. Yeah, bullshit. Then it shouldn't be on the survey to begin with.
Yeah. Seems like some touchy. This is a little touchy subject. For somebody.
Like, dude, all the automotive industry jobs are pretty fucking hard. And when dealerships and brands want to hold that shit over somebody's head that's just trying to work hard and do a damn good job fixing their bullshit fucking cars that break all the damn time, and the brand is pissing in their shoes on top, in the service advisor's shoes on top of it, doing almost nothing to help them help the customer who's only pissed off because the fucking car they bought is broke, not because the advisor did anything.
It's certainly
how am I supposed to feel.
That, I mean, that is
not that that's personal or anything, but
not that it's personal or anything. People's paychecks are attached to it. Certainly that is a thing that happens. Obviously, is people end up pissed and leave people completely shit surveys just because their car is fucked up. And like, listen, and obviously I was never a service manager. I was in tech for a short while. And then I was in parts, and I was a parts manager for a long time. And I had one time, I specifically remember the service manager was either on vacation or he was not in the office or whatever. And this woman was losing her fucking mind. And so they needed some intervention. And so they said, hey, can you come help? And so I went to go talk to this woman. She had a Beetle convertible, and whatever. She had some, who knows, whatever. You could probably guess the string of things that happened. Window regulator.
The flaps broke, window regulator, regulator.
Exactly. Whatever. Anyway, so that whole thing happens, and this woman was losing her mind in a way that I was like, I eventually got to the point where I was like, ma'am, I don't know why you're mad at me. You came here for us to help you fix your car. We're trying to help you. I understand why you're upset. We're here to help you get it fixed. But I promise you this, yelling at me is not going to help us get your car fixed faster. And I understand why you're upset. I can give you customer care's information, whatever. So, but I mean, this woman was losing her shit to the point where, advisors who, most advisors are legit the punching bag of a dealership. They're used to getting the shit kicked out of them on a daily basis. They don't need intervention as a general rule from anybody. That is not most advisors, unless they suck shit. They do not need help from managers to deal with a customer. They are more than capable of dealing with them without anybody. So
yeah, usually by the time a customer is yelled at a service advisor and gets to the manager, like they're not nearly as pissed off as they were when they were yelling at the service advisor.
No, mostly just because they're tired. They're just tired from all that yelling.
Still that pissed. It's a serious deal. And how did we get talking about service advisors when we were starting to talk about car commercials?
We are very sidetracked here.
Yeah. However, it all does though really play into that whole like car buying and car ownership culture, and how like it's kind of fucking weird right now. It's not going to get any less weird, I don't think, over the next 5 to 7 to 10 years. But that said, there are still some pretty great car commercials. Maybe not, you have to, I guess, identify what makes a great commercial, right? That car commercial with the Jetta with the guy and his key in the door. Really, it's not a great commercial. It's
It is
great
though,
to
because
me.
I think for the time though, that was kind of a big deal.
Well, the feature was, but like the overall commercial, it's just a dude and his wife, and like they're doing a feature on the car, right? It's not.
Yeah, but any
not anything
to me, any advertising, this is the reality of advertising is any advertising is something that is relatable and memorable. That's
right, and that's why to me that's a great commercial
right.
because I remember whether it's I remember it because like, oh shit, this is super relatable, or I remember it because like, wow, that is a really dumb commercial. Do you remember? I think it was the Kia Soul commercial
hamsters?
Where they had the hamsters. Like, what a dumb shit commercial. But I remember it,
dude.
And like,
I will never forget
dumb,
those stupid fucking hamsters. It's the ugliest car on the planet. Well, not the ugliest car on the planet. I mean, they're the
PT Cruiser's offended by that. By the way,
the Pontiac Aztec said, "Hold my beer." There's a ton of cars that are way uglier than that thing, but it was. I mean, it was a certainly memorable entire campaign that they had on that whole thing. With it's a combination of the hamsters with the song and the fucking dancing and all the whatever. Like, but you won't forget that shit. You'll be fucking 70 and you'll be like, oh, remember that fucking hamster and those stupid like puke green box Kia Souls that somehow people buy. I don't know why. It doesn't matter. Like, but hey, if they're cheap and you need transportation, cool. Get the fucking hamster mobile.
Get the hamster mobile. I wonder if they ever had like a little hamster wheel somewhere, like hidden Easter egg kind of thing, or if Kia's like, we don't give a shit about that.
I'd give a keychain.
We're not Jeep.
I give a keychain with a hamster wheel if I was. Our dealer group that I worked for before this had a Kia store, and they bought a hamster costume at one point that was
or maybe like
insanely expensive.
Dude, do you remember, like, this maybe aging myself out, but like people used to carry around rabbit's feet, and they were like, I think they were legit like dead rabbit's feet. Maybe were they?
Well,
maybe they weren't.
Well, this
is a long time ago.
It's not that long ago.
Like 80s, long time ago. That was a long time
ago. Dude. This was happening into the late 90s, I would say. Yeah, but rabbit's feet was a thing. Oh yeah, but most of them came from in the later days for sure. Oriental Trading. You know that fucking Oriental Trading magazine. It was like a magazine with just like a bunch of horse shit that an 8-year-old would fucking go crazy over. That's pretty much
Well, I'm thinking of the ones that were like, you could get them out of the gumball machine at the grocery store.
Yeah, well, that's the same thing. Oriental Trading was basically gumball machine filler. You'd have to buy in bulk. You'd be like, man, I would love to have one of these. You got to buy 50 of them. No,
it was the Alibaba of the day.
Yes, it was the Alibaba before Alibaba was a thing. Oriental Trading. I wonder if it even still exists anymore. I presume it does because old people are old still and they just still use magazines. But
and if you take away nothing from this episode, old people are old and they still use magazines.
Yes. Yeah. Hey,
I like that
magazine. If you like paper and you like being old,
it's my favorite book. If you like being old. Now I'm going down a rabbit hole of like, were rabbits' feet really lucky, and rabbits don't have paw pads, and all right, I need to put that.
I feel
down.
Like the were rabbits' feet really lucky question might be an age-old question that you can't answer.
Yeah, it's probably best that I don't. Like, it's one of those where I feel like I'd be up till 4 a.m. when you have to get up at 5. Like, I just gotta know. Like I've watched 8,000 YouTube videos and I still don't know if rabbit's feet are really lucky or not.
I wonder if
then I buy 10,000 of them on.
Throw the salt over your shoulder. Is that what it is? Is it salt over your shoulder?
Chewing a rabbit's foot? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know any of these. I don't know.
We're definitely way off path now.
Yeah. This is I didn't even finish. I'm worried that like this
episode's about advertising, by the way, in case you didn't know.
So buy your lucky rabbit's foot today. I'll put a link down in the description. Hashtag sponsored by
Hashtag-
luckyrabbitfeet.com. I don't even want to say that website because that could get.
Lucky
Anytime you
Ra-
say anything
Whoa.
feet.com,
No,
shit gets
no.
weird, I assume.
When you say rabbit,
So,
rabbit gets into the world of the sexual pleasure toys. Yeah, so
yeah, I'm out of that world. Out. I don't know how they do it in Vegas, which is probably still shut down.
yeah.
So
They
back
do
to
that.
advertising and car commercials. I was trying to get, this is where I was trying to go with whatever the hell I was saying many minutes ago, is that there are some that are still pretty good and pretty memorable. What's cool today, though, is like the features of the cars, they do a lot all on their own without having to hire Captain America and that chick from Saturday Night Live to talk in Boston accents about how the car can park itself. Like that shit's cool.
We certainly mentioned the that's probably the most recent memorable good commercial, right? Is the Smart Pack, which is
definitely
what is that? Kia or Hyundai?
Hyundai. It's a Hyundai
Sonata, probably. Yeah, yeah. So Smart Pack, I believe was what's his face in it? Good Will Hunting. Matt Damon.
I mean, boy, you'd have to
I
assume that he was.
I think he was.
I mean, it'd be stupid if he and Ben Affleck weren't.
They really fucked up by not having the zebra. Is it zebra corner? I can't remember. You probably don't know what I'm talking about, but you know the commercials. The dude made parody commercials of the Chevy commercials, and he had a heavy Boston accent.
Yeah, that guy's awesome.
He is fucking hilarious. By far the best. It's the best commercials ever, and it's not even a car commercial. It's a parody of terrible car commercials. I mean, those commercials are dog shit bad. That's why he's able to make parodies of them and make them so amazing, which is weird because, it's funny. Before we got off on this tangent, I was thinking like, man, you know what's good? You know what like good advertisements are is like American truck commercials that have like the real like America vibe to them. Like those commercials are prime for their demographic. They hit you in the like patriotic feels. Like that is
families and a dog, and you're hauling lumber and towing a trailer, and you're going uphill, and you hit a button, and your trailer disappears, and people are like, "Damn, that's cool."
Yeah, and right. And you just fucking bald eagles, American Pie, fucking beers and baseball and fucking everything you could be America ever. And that's an American truck commercial. And then you have those commercials that are usually very good. Even the worst ones are pretty good. And then you have those piles of shit of the Chevy commercials that I remember one line from one of them, and it was of I think it was Impala, or no, it was the Malibu. It was when they released the new Malibu, and they were like, they had this people like, what is this, a Mercedes? And it was like,
yeah,
nobody thought that was a fucking Mercedes ever.
No,
all right, so stop it right now.
No, it's funny, like those commercials got slayed so bad. And I guess I'm just so, because here's actually maybe another kind of a point on why commercials don't have the legs that they used to, is the way people consume television now is just totally upside down of what it was. Well, I mean, 7 years ago, but let's go back a little bit further than that, call it 15 years ago. I'm so like tuned out when a commercial comes on that like I saw them and I'm like, yeah, it's just like another dumb commercial. But I didn't realize until that dude started making these parody commercials how much people really hate those commercials and just roast that shit. I think they've discontinued that campaign with the clean cut dude with like a proper trim beard and like a tight fitted shirt and clipboard, and the cars pop out from behind the wall and like, ooh, what kind is it? Is it a Chevy? Oh, it's a Chevy.
am almost sure whoever came up with those definitely got fired over the fact that dude shits all over them nonstop. And his parodies are 10 times more popular than the car or the advertisement that they put out.
What's dumb, and this is like brings you back to like a true sense of marketers by and large are generally not that fucking good, and are very short-sighted, and brands, and like it's the marketers and the brands, they play into each other's stupidity and ego, where like, dude, if they would have fucking hired that guy to do some commercials and like let him throw gentle jabs at the dumb commercials that they had before, they would have sold a fucking ton of cars.
He would crush with if they let that dude do their commercials. And you know, it's funny that while you were setting that up, I don't know if you know this. So a lot of the advertisements from VW in the early days, in like the late Mark IV, Mark V days, I believe they all came from a marketing firm in LA. And I don't know exactly how it's pronounced, but it's spelled very similar to my business name. I think it's Deutsch, because it's Deutsch, no E. And that is the marketing firm that did a large majority of the like very popular VW marketing. It's funny, I got a fast right here, right
that
there,
guy right up there,
right there. But which, by the way, I found the guy, and I don't know if I ever mentioned this to you.
You talked to me about the guy.
I found the guy who was part of that team, who supposedly has a prototype fast, which is that right there. That's in clay, which looks, I would say, quite a bit different, but you can see where it comes from. That I was supposed to get, but I still don't have. So, yeah,
checks in the mail, bro.
I'm bummed about that.
Yeah, that would have been an iconic piece of nostalgia of the mid 2000s.
Yeah, I don't know. So to me, I think probably there are certain, to me, like many businesses, many businesses, I think most people probably don't really recognize this, is that most businesses really stem from a handful of people who are actually driving the success of the business. And that even includes smaller businesses like ours, or the biggest businesses that have a handful of people who really execute and do the smart things and make these decisions that oftentimes, and you know, obviously for me it's a little bit different because whatever, it's my business, I can do whatever I want. But
I do what I want,
whatever. But when you're in a big corporation, a lot of times you're fucking letting your balls swing out there and put them on a table for somebody to lop them off if shit goes sideways, which is why nobody ever takes risks in those places. And those are the people who are going to be the ones who are going to be the, you know, big risk, big reward people.
Yeah. And well, what's stupid is they won't, so many brands won't even take like micro risks, right? Where literally they're going to hire. So yeah, because I mean, I've ran into this with brands that I've worked with in the past that I don't necessarily work with anymore, where it's like, hey, let's do this really cool campaign. I have these fun ideas, and they want to nitpick every single word that I say. And I'm like, I mean, if y'all want to keep paying, I'll say whatever words you want, right? Like if you want to use, I don't know, tan instead of beige, cool, don't care. But I can promise you, if 1 million people see it, maybe one person outside of your little circle of people is going to realize that, and it doesn't matter.
Also, the reality, and I think it's interesting about that dynamic to me, and this is probably more of a learning lesson for brands that people are in marketing, maybe more so than anything, to recognize
of none are going to watch this. By the way,
yeah, probably.
We've already told them I already told them they sucked. So
yeah, well, it's true.
They clicked off.
Yeah. But if you are dealing with influencers of any kind, I mean, in my opinion, obviously we are not. I guess we're in the content space, but I don't really we don't have any advertisers or any brands or whatever we work with. Sometimes people give us products that we already sell anyway to promote their thing.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah. Thanks. We already sell your product. But that in that circumstance, you really alienate people from having a good taste in their mouth about your brand by making their life miserable over horse shit. And
yeah.
and because of that, to me,
I'm sorry.
We've worked with obviously you and I work together on occasion on stuff, which whatever, but we're friends. It's different. But when I work with other people, I don't really care. I don't fucking nitpick over anything. It's like, hey, say what you want to say. That's up to you. If I don't feel like you're giving me good value in return for the exchange, I'm going to not continue to deal with you anymore. Understand that that's a reality, right? But
sure.
But the idea of nitpicking over what everything says, I've never sent something did anything that required me approving something. Is like, I don't fucking, first of all, I don't want to spend the time. I don't that is time I am not willing to dedicate to nitpick over somebody's words to have them redo something. Again, I would rather you have a good taste in your mouth about dealing with us and feel positive about the interaction than nitpick over every fucking word.
Ultimately, when it comes to things like that, I actually don't think, especially if you're a company of any size, like putting eyeballs on the deliverable products before it goes live, I think that's reasonable. I think an edit or two here or there is also kind of reasonable, because look, as a creator, like there's shit I miss. Sometimes I miss something. Sometimes, I'm doing an advertisement for the brand 44, and there's a 33 right here in the background that I just don't see because it's there all the time in my life. Okay, cool. I get it. But how are you as a brand going to reach out to someone, an influencer, which I fucking hate that word, but whatever. You're going to reach out to this content creator. You like what they do, so you've studied their content. You at least understand the scope of what they do and their cadence and how they operate. And like, if you went to some XYZ creator that swears all the time on their drinking podcast, you're probably not going to want them to advertise something that is like geared towards 8-year-olds, right? That doesn't make any fucking sense, you dumbasses.
We did get a comment recently about somebody who was upset about the swearing, which
really, I didn't see that.
Unfortunately, this is the way we talk. So
yeah, haven't you seen our movies?
Haven't you?
That was a good one.
Haven't you seen my movies?
Deep Blue.
Juice? Did you say Juice?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
That was a Samuel Jackson. No, Samuel.
No.
Yes. No. Listen, no, it wasn't a Samuel Jackson. It was a Dave Chappelle skit where he was playing Sam Jackson when they went to a bar or something and ordered like a Samuel Jackson beer.
The Samuel Jackson. It's my motherfucking beer, bitch.
Yeah, there you go. Great shirt, by the way. I just noticed that you were wearing it.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to that. Like, you've studied the content creators' fucking content.
Yeah. Well,
why would you hire them if you didn't trust them to make good
correct
shit?
And that's really the reality of that circumstances. But that is something that I think my question is I wonder how much I have seen. It's very odd, actually, to me, is I've seen quite a number of people who have commented or messaged me or commented on content somewhere along the way who have said they specifically made a decision to buy a car with us. It's probably Mark 7, specifically because the breadth of content that existed for the model specifically. Which
that makes a lot of sense, I guess.
If you are somebody who mods your car, and frankly, this is something that maybe for brands, because I'm sure they're not listening because they don't fucking care about things that matter. decision making for an enthusiast is a very different decision process than what you would expect for the average consumer who's just looking for make sure their car gets them where they want to go and has power windows and has a radio or Bluetooth or whatever bullshit that regular people, just very non-car people buy cars for. Like my wife fucking, when she talks about cars, she drives a minivan. She always talks about the stupid built-in vacuum that they have that you can get with a lot of the Odysseys, but with a lot of the vans they have that. And it's like, that's a dumb fucking feature because you know that shit's gonna be clogged up with fucking lollipop sticks in fucking 2 weeks with that are just all gummed up and shitty, and that thing's gonna stop working, and then you just got shit clogged in this stupid fucking internal vacuum system that doesn't work anymore.
I wonder how many of those, because I actually think that is an incredibly good idea. Like when you draw out a list of features and you're looking at it like a vacuum in your car, especially a minivan, which is, riddled with Cheetos and what are the little circle cereal? Cheerios. That's what I was actually trying to say. Smashed up Cheerios. It's a brilliant idea, but I wonder, I'd love to know, like from Honda techs, because VW never had that stuff, thank God. Can you tell whether people actually, I mean, obviously you could tell that people don't use it when their car's riddled with Cheerios. Yeah, Cheerios. But I wonder how many are like still wrapped in like the factory zip tie, tucked in the little storage thing at 140,000. Yeah.
And they just bought,
I would use that, though.
They just bought like the $43,000 like baller van, the $45,000 baller van, but they don't even vacuum their own car. so
they got people at the Turtle Wax to do that shit for them.
Yeah. So anyway, to me, that's one of those features that's one of the, I think, to me, I'm somebody personally who, when I make decisions, I actually consider, okay, is this cool? Yes. Is this something I'm actually going to use? No. Like, I don't own an Apple Watch specifically for this reason. I don't like wearing watches. I have owned and still own some nice watches, and I don't fucking wear them because I hate fucking wearing watches. And so when Apple Watches came out, I was like, I really think this is neat. And I'm like, God damn it, I cannot justify spending money on this because I'm never going to wear it. And never mind, I'm going to be pissed that I got to charge this stupid fucking thing when I don't wear it. And then every time I do want to wear it, it's fucking dead.
Dude, I've had that exact conversation, like legit. The Apple Watch is cool. And I'm in the Apple ecosystem. So like adding something to the ecosystem for me is a pretty easy sell. And I could not tell you the last time I had a watch on. So I'm with you there. I did see one cool thing though, that made me like shop the Apple Watch and then realize how expensive it was by the time you add like a cool band and shit. I'm like, I'm out. This shit's almost as expensive as the damn phone is that you can, so obviously it's synced to your phone or paired to your phone or whatever. Also, did you know you can set your new generation iPhone so that if you do a certain number of taps on the back part, like the part here, that it'll take a screenshot? Did you know that?
I don't know if I knew that.
It's pretty cool. I don't have that turned on, but I thought it was pretty neat. But anyway, you can set your iPhone, Apple Watch thing, and where it'll like mirror the camera of your phone. So you could like set your phone way over here and like
that's actually useful for you for sure.
Super useful, but I still can't justify like the $600 or whatever the hell it costs.
Yeah. Well, my wife got one for herself because she wanted one. So, but I can't. I cannot justify owning it myself. I could not see myself owning it. But and that's, to me, I think a lot of car features, especially the ones like, for example, we talked about the Mark 8R, the drift mode thing is the one thing that everybody's like, ooh, fucking drift mode. And I think it's silly. No one's going to use it. It's anybody who's ever driven a car in a very aggressive manner, enough to drift a car, knows you need a lot of fucking space to drift a car. You need a lot of space, you need a lot of openness, especially if you don't know what you're doing, because you're gonna fucking crash into something almost for sure. And and nobody has all of the access to those things on a regular basis or ever, frankly. And so those features end up not really getting used, even though they're cool and everybody fucking J's their D while they're thinking about it, but they don't matter.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things where, you know, I did pretty much spent my whole day doing Mark 8 research. So really like putting myself in the space of owning a Mark 8, what would I do? What are my thoughts on it? Which is challenging when you're just looking at pictures and videos on the internets. I experienced something similar with my R, which does not have drift mode, but it does have the selectable driver experience, we'll call it. It lives in comfort mode because I'm old and I like my ass to be comfortable. It hits race mode for cool guy points when I autocross it, which is not very often. It's only been a few times. And when I'm like, okay, I'm a little bored and I haven't driven this car in like 2 weeks, so let's burn some fuel through it. Other than that, it doesn't like, and I think most other R owners maybe don't have the same approach, but they leave it alone, right? It's not like every 3 miles you're booping the thing to change to a new mode, and drift mode is meant for off-road use only. So yeah, like it's in the space of a feature that other cars in that category have. Therefore, like we want to add this because it looks cool on a spec sheet. It's probably mad fun to drive that car in that mode. It's probably a really good time.
And it's probably really actually works and is good. Like I legitimately think that. I mean, especially, you know, Europeans, they don't they do plenty of dumb, weird shit that we can disagree with, but when they make stuff like that, I'm sure it's good and it works. But the reality is, and here's what I'll say. If I was them, I would have done the exact same thing. Even though I think I'm
100%.
criticizing it and say I think it's a stupid
100%.
fucking thing to have, I would have done the same thing because the Focus RS, people all talked about that shit. And specifically that mod, they talked about it nonstop. And it's a big who the fuck cares. But the reality is that people who are fair weather enthusiasts who don't realize they're never actually going to use that feature talk about shit like that. And
yeah, and for nothing else, if that served no other purpose than to create buzz around the car,
great, fucking
it's
win.
worth putting in the car because it's software, right? There's nothing different about that car that is in that, nothing in that vehicle is different because of drift mode that wouldn't have been there anyway.
On the Focus
other
RS,
than software.
it was kind of, because they did.
I don't think the R would be the Focus probably, but the R, I don't think there's one.
I agree. I think it's the same
part that's different.
Yeah. The only thing the way they geared, and I mentioned this in that video, is they geared the RS to allow distribution to be heavier towards the rear. Whereas obviously with the R, we know most likely it's going to be 50-50 max. Whereas in the
that's what the specs are.
Yeah.
As of right now.
So I assume that's gonna be the case. So yes, only software based and ABS and blah blah and intervention type stuff. And who knows, maybe when you put it in the drift mode, it slows down the front tires to get you more rotation.
These are all things that we have to wait almost a year to find out.
I don't think we're gonna find. I don't know they're gonna be like, hey, here's how we make drift.
Hey Charles,
mode
guess how this works.
Yeah, I wish they would. Like honestly, to me, the best thing you could do as a brand with enthusiast cars like the R would be to reach out to someone like you or me or Jason at Engineering Explained or whatever, is to explain like gimmicky cool tech like that and make content around it, actually showing how it works, showing the interventions of how it works. Like that's fucking cool. That's marketing around the car that people would really love to see. And organically like to see, because it's interesting, not this, oh, here's all this shit we want to ram down your throat because we want you to know it. To me, everything's a reverse. Is you should want people to want to know about it. And that's, if you put it out, that then there will be a draw for it and it will get out there and exist. But the idea that it's going to be inverse and you only get to share with people the stuff that you want to share, they're not going to give a fuck. That's where advertising is now.
If you're talking about a baseline Jetta, then yeah, I think like take the approach of here's the information that we give you. But when you're talking about a halo car, truly, like if you're not, I won't say all, because I've met some like random older people that like, yeah, I bought a Golf R because it was all-wheel drive or whatever, not enthusiast based, just that was the car they wanted. But when you take it in a percentage, you figure probably 95% of the people that are going to buy that car are enthusiasts, whether it's VW or just a driving enthusiast. They have a certain level of affluency, maybe is the word I'm looking for. I mean, it's a $45,000 car, so they have money, right? Some level of money.
Is what you're saying.
They're bougie AF, especially if their car's yellow. And they're probably in a lot of ways very tech savvy, tech oriented, and they want to know, like, they want to know this shit, you know, in the spec charts, and it says it on my R2, traction control off, there's 0 intervention from traction control. Skeptical Charles with his tinfoil hat back on, find it incredibly hard to believe that even with it turned off in the cluster, that there is no intervention at all.
Zero. I promise you there is an intervention. We know we've tracked our all track with it turned off, and it 100% intervenes.
There we go. I'm still wearing my tinfoil hat.
Yeah,
that's why my hats are
keep
gray,
that shit on, because it does. Now there are settings within VACCOM or OBD11 that you can actually turn it off. I made a video about it that you can check out on YouTube.
Hashtag subscribe.
But yeah, we showed there's options within the stuff to allow you to turn it off or do different versions or whatever. But yeah, those interventions still exist, and for good reason, because people are dumb and they think they want 0 traction control, except for you don't realize, because you're a dumbass who thinks I'm a fucking good driver and fucking look at me, I'm super macho, until you realize that you're spinning around the highway and your car gets put into a wall because you fucking hydroplaned. And maybe traction control is actually kind of a cool thing to have, and you shouldn't be driving around on a day-to-day basis without traction control on.
Especially a car with good traction control, which the newest, like, that car is going to have amazing traction control. My R has amazing traction control. Like, when you feel it intervene, it legit, in a lot of cases, is helping you. Unless you're, a super cool guy race car driver, then like you're probably not blown away by the car to begin with. So whatever. Let's get back to talking about shitty and awesome car commercials.
This car
wrap this shit up.
This video is about car commercials. Okay, so here we go. Favorite car commercial of all time. I feel like I'm really putting you on the spot here, and I'm actually putting myself on the spot, because when I'm thinking about it while I'm talking, I'll allow you to think. But I don't know what I would consider to be my favorite car commercial of all time. Favorite car commercial of all time could be VW, could not be VW.
I'm standing firm on my Jetta in the door. I'm also thinking of like the cheesy old Toyota commercials where they would like jump and freeze at the end. I liked those. Like, I like corny shit. So, that kind of stuff, it reminds me of like the 90s, and I dig that. And there's also a lot of VW commercials that we were never able to see, that never saw the light of day. Some of which, like, reasonably, I remember one time this was in some like training thing, and the dude was showing us some of these unaired commercials where it's like 3 dudes, and I think it was a Mark III commercial. I could also have just like way remembered this wrong because it was a long ass time ago. And the dudes are talking about like what they're doing, and like they all have girlfriends with straight hair, and they all shop at J. Crew. And I'm just like, well, she was my wife at the time, still is. Thank God. She's got straight hair and she shops at J. Crew. Maybe I should drive a Golf, but that never aired. But I don't know. There's a lot of really great ones, but most of them suck.
Speaking of unaired commercials, there's a lot of them that are not real. And I don't know if you know this. I'm sure you've probably, you may or may not have seen it. There is a Polo GTI commercial that
is it the one I think I know what you're going to say.
It's not a real commercial. I don't know if you know that. It was like claimed to be on an unaired commercial at the time. And essentially the commercial is it's a guy gets in a Polo GTI. He's a Middle Eastern looking gentleman. He goes to Suicide Bomber Market and he explodes, and just inside of the car explodes and the outside does not. And it says like Polo GTI. That's like something about saying how tough it is or something like that. I don't remember. Something like that. Kind of a funny commercial. Obviously a lot of people get their feelings hurt about that commercial. But wasn't an actual commercial. It was like some college kids in the UK or something that made it. So, sometimes those commercials are not necessarily real.
Yeah, this one I don't think I'm allowed to say where I saw it, but it was an unaired commercial.
I see.
I will just say that. So anyway, what do you think, Paul? Knock it out of the park. I'm gonna sit here and judge, all judgy. What's your favorite?
My favorite commercial, man. I think I have to go with what I would consider to be the most memorable one for me. And I think it would be that Synchronicity commercial. Though
that is such a good commercial.
I can hear the music in my head still when I think about that commercial, and it's fucking 20 years old.
Yeah, I'm gonna look while you're.
I know what it was. It was a green Mark IV Jetta, and I imagine 1999 is when that was from. And it, again, the weird part for me is it's not even an earth-shattering commercial. It's just something that that is stuck with me. And I think that is the goal of any advertising, is to stick with you. Now I think the one place a lot of advertising missed the mark is it's memorable, but you don't really connect it to the thing, which is like,
so this black Jetta.
Black. Okay.
Here we go. Hold on. Like the wipers are going. I couldn't edit this to see it, but I'm too lazy to do that. And like the basketball dribble comes in soon.
Dun, dun, dun,
yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Stop sign. That amazing commercial. Volkswagen, bring that shit back. Yeah. Because that was good.
Bring a new version of that with Cardi B.
You remember, was it last Christmas or maybe it was 2 Christmases ago, where so many people were sad about that song. I think it's Baby It's Cold Outside, which is actually one of my favorite Christmas songs. And now like that fucking Cardi B song is everywhere, and that's okay.
By the way, I made a parody version of that about wet ass pavement. And I have not done anything with it yet. I've debated whether I should do anything with it.
That is a space I don't know that I will be treading in because of,
it was there was too much cringe for me to feel comfortable ever doing anything with it, but it was an idea.
It's an unaired commercial.
And that's an episode, guys. Until next week, we drank some White Russians. We had some talks about a lot of things that did not include commercials, and
there was a car commercial or two in there though. However, okay, bye.
Bye.